I got too much fun with this thing with my PKE meter. All right, welcome to episode 154 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers, and joining me once again, we have Steven.
Ho, ho, ho.
Chris.
Oh, no.
And Chase.
Hello.
Once again, continuing our conspiracy theory, Rachel and Chris have not appeared at the same time because Rachel is not here tonight. One wonders.
The plot thickens.
If we had the special effects to do that, where you just tear your face up and be Rachel, I would do it. But...
It was me, Austin. It was me all along.
There you go.
And I wouldn't have got away with it if it weren't for those stupid kids.
That dumb dog.
And if I actually had any kind of editing skills and the finances for it, that would be great. So everyone else just imagine, because we're broke. All right. So this is one of our last shows of the year. Next week's episode will be the final episode for 2024, as well as our season 6. So we'll be jumping over to season 7 in the beginning of 2025. But so we'll figure out what we're going to talk about exactly next week. But this week we've got a kind of a fun lineup to talk about a few things in regards to Sega and some other stuff. But before we get into that, we're going to jump into, as we usually do, what we've been doing. And because Chris hasn't been here in a while, we'll start with you. So Chris, what you been up to? What you been doing?
I've been playing Anton Blast on Steam. It's a lot of fun. Very Wario / Crash Bandicoot-esque. And, it's definitely everything I was looking for in that kind of game. And hopefully they'll make it so that we will get a Wario Land 5, hopefully, because Pizza Tower and Anton Blast are the same kind of thing. And now they're both on Switch. So I've also been playing Metaphor Riff Fantasio. I'm up to my 5th run.
I will be starting mine soon, so I'll have to talk to you about it when I do that.
No, well, we'll see. I will help you as best as I can. And I also played a demo for Blade Chimera, which is from Studio Ladybug, the same guys that did the Wonder Labyrinth and Luna Knights Metroidvanias. They're basically a well-known franchise-based Metroidvania company. Basically, they've taken any kind of previous franchise and made it into Symphony of the Night, complete with beautiful pixel art. And this is their first completely original IP.
I'm here for that.
It's on Switch. It's very fun.
I think one of the more recent kind of fun IP-based ones I've done is the one for the Mummy. Like, that was surprisingly good.
Oh, Demastered.
Mummy Demastered, fantastic.
That was such a good game. All right, Chase, what about you? What have you been doing?
I'm a pretty boring guy, actually. It's been work's been full on, so I haven't really done a whole lot of gaming. But in great news, and it's a historical day in gaming. Earlier today, Shanoa finished Indiana Jones. It's like the first game she's finished in ages.
Hooray!
No spoilers. I haven't finished it yet, so
Yeah. She usually plays a game, she gets halfway through a game, then she gets bored with it, and then she stops. So the fact that she actually finished a game, it's pretty amazing.
Well, it still says right now on Discord that you were playing Indiana Jones, so... Yeah,
well, she's getting all the collectibles and stuff, so she's working on it. But I'm actually going to get my Xbox back soon, which is yes. It's actually been kind of boring without it. Who knew?
I thought everything was an Xbox. Just pick up your phone. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. This is an Xbox.
Right.
So yeah, and then the only other games that I've really played will be talked about the group chat.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it for me.
All right, Steven, what about you then? What have you been doing?
Surprisingly, I've been playing ZZZ and Multiverses.
What?
Really? Never heard of it.
Man, this is exciting. This is new.
Finally, you've done something different.
I will make a dark confession and say, while over this whole year, because of my wrap up from PlayStation, I've spent maybe $10 on Multiverses. I've spent $100 on ZZZ.
Wow.
I want all the characters, okay?
What?
Anyway.
You're the reason this gacha mechanic exists.
Yeah, you are the dark.
Anyway, I still check in to play Marvel Rivals. They just came out with a new mode where everybody gets to play Jeff the Land Shark for the holidays, and they turned it into Splatoon, where he's basically spraying his colored water everywhere, and whoever gets more color on the map wins. It's already better than Foam Stars, I heard.
It's not a high bar.
I'm about to say, does Foam Star still exist? I thought they shut that down already.
No,
Hang on a
it's
second.
still up.
What color is this water?
One's pink, one's blue.
Oh, okay, good.
Cool. Yeah,
All right.
I'm about to say, don't make it yellow or white. That was a mistake
we're
that's
not
been done
Foam Stars.
before. We're not Foam Stars.
But other than that, they seem to do this every holiday, and usually it's a trash fest. But there's this publisher called No Gravity Games, and every December they do 11 days of giveaways for games on the eShop. The only rule is you have to claim the free game each day, because if you miss one, in order to get the next one free, you have to go back and buy what you didn't. So, as long as you just log in to their giveaway website every day, it'll link it to the eShop and let you download it. There's 11 in total. I've only played 6 of them. Some of them are really quick. Some of them are involved. Surprisingly, in the order I went to, it went from okay to, oh God, what is this? So, doing a quick bullet run through, No More Snow is basically Santa now has weapons and guns, and he's trying to kill all the snowmen. And it's just like a weird Diablo light, and I mean really light. It's just stages you go through killing snowmen.
Back the fuck up there, Frosty.
Fueled Up seems a little...
Okay, and we're back from yet another error. I don't know what the hell is going on with Zencastr this week, but we had dropped off in the middle of Steven talking about his games from the No Gravity Games group. So carry on.
Deja vu.
Yeah, no kidding. I think you're about to talk about Fueled Up.
The second one was Fueled Up, and that one plays actually like Overcooked, so that seems like that'll actually be pretty good.
Oh.
So that one was well put together. And you got to remember these guys are publishers, so it's not like they're making the bad games or anything like that. Then there was Alder's Blood, which it's hard to describe, but it was kind of like if Fire Emblem and the hunting mode from Oregon Trail went together and made a game.
What the hell?
There's a lot of like sneaking around, making sure that the demons can't smell you because you waft like a line of scent that they can smell when you're in like the tall grass and stuff. So I was like, well, that's new. Then I tried Master Spy, which is basically just a quick stealth level simulator where you done pixelated style where you can turn invisible, not get caught. Every time you get caught, you keep hitting retry. Then there's Bob Help Them, which it is a timed game of how fast can you help all the NPCs. They'll say they want like, hey, can you chop down all these trees? Can you pick all these apples? Can you make me 5 slices of pie in 8 minutes? I'm like, okay.
So it's like a speed run of thank goodness you're here.
Yeah, but it's very simple. It's like Animal Crossing, simple. And then, looking at the art of this was Ring Sculptors, and it doesn't scream Pixar-based AI, but it screams like realistic AI, because like stuff just looks either like too pretty or too clean, and I'm like, I don't know about this just yet. It is a visual novel that you can choose your own adventure with and select a class and do stats and all this stuff. But I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. I may try it a little bit longer. But the other ones that I did not play yet were a Classic Logic bundle, which is just like Minesweeper and Solitaire for Switch. Yay. Drag Racing Rivals, Saijin the Cyborg Ninja, Ego Protocol Remastered, and didn't know there was an original. And Creepy Tale 2, I didn't know there was a first one. So, in past years, though, they've all been garbage, but this year it seems a little different. So, it was interesting.
Nice.
They were all better than Astrobot.
Wow.
Shots fired.
I'm just kidding. I haven't played Astrobot yet.
That's not even the most pissy someone's been about it. We'll talk about that today. It's gotten pretty funny. All right, so I will jump into what I've been doing. Still playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I had to travel for work this week, so I didn't really play it too much. Ended up playing more Vampire Survivors. Even though the Castlevania DLC I paid for just isn't showing up, I still cannot figure out where the hell it is. I've gone so far as even trying to reinstall the game. Steam says I own it, but it's just not there, so don't know. Still working through Mario and Luigi Brothership. I swear to God, I wish this game would finally end. Like I enjoy it, but it is just dragging on. They should have ended the game earlier, and then all this extra content could have been like an after credits, like a after you play type thing to expand and do some other stuff. I think it would have worked better that way, so you can kind of divide it.
I can see the steam coming out of Swan's ears right now.
I haven't played it yet, so I don't know how long it actually is.
The fact that somebody said a game's too long.
He didn't say he didn't like it, though.
I'm still enjoying it, but I've talked about this before. It's not a secret, like ADHD and so forth. I have a really hard time with RPGs. They have to kind of keep my attention, and that's why I tend to kind of wander away from them, and I don't play them that much. Not because the game isn't good, it's just difficult for me to stick with it. I am over 40 hours into this damn Mario game. That is a lot of Mario and grinding and repetitiveness.
That's like 1/5 of what I've done in ZZZ.
Yeah, that's your own problem. I'm still enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. I just think there's a lot of kind of ridiculous stuff they could have trimmed out and kept the story going. Like there's parts that happen where it's like, all right, we're going to basically redo these 2 islands for this reason that didn't seem to have much of a reason. And it's like that added hours of extra time. And it's like, oh, come on. I'm still liking it, and I'm just hoping I can finish it soon because I want to play something else on my Switch. I think is the other thing. I'm used to just being able to swap cartridges out and play stuff, and it's like I'm kind of held prisoner right now because if I play anything else, I will never finish this. I won't go back and do it, and that's the problem. But I've managed to finish multiple Mario RPGs this year, so that alone should be a credit to me at least because I played through the Thousand Year Door and Mario RPG. Now I'm doing Mario and Luigi Brothership. Plus, I was still playing Shin Megami Tensei, what was it, 5 Vengeance or whatever? Still working on that. So this is probably the most RPGs I have played in a long time. So that's something. Amanda and I watched the series finale, sadly, of Lower Decks the other day. It ended really strong. Absolutely still love that show. And I think it's one of the best Star Treks they've made in a long time. Like, I really like Star Trek, but Lower Decks really understood how Star Trek was and poked fun at itself and really brought in all kinds of different aspects of it and kind of got into it more than some of the other shows kind of had the freedom to do. And we greatly appreciated that. Amanda even bought me, I have the pop figure of Rutherford, the engineer now, to go with Badgie, the evil killer AI, which I have in my game room now. I've got a little collection of Star Trek engineers going on. I have a Geordie LaForge that's in my office at work in my lab. So, works out. Also, I finally watched the first 3 episodes of Creature Commandos. I've got to watch the 4th episode that's out now. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I started it kind of late. This is the first in the James Gunn DC universe that they're starting over. And I have to say it's really, really good. It is very violent. I have seen people's heads blown open in gory detail and kind of comedic ways. And it's not afraid of sex, violence, drugs, all kinds of stuff. It's all there. This is not a child's cartoon at all. You will see boobies. But I like the fact that all the people that are doing the voice work for it, if any of these characters show up in other DC movies, they will be played by the same person that did the voice acting. So we'll talk about it in a little bit, but some of these characters are going to show up in later stuff as well. And then lastly, I have been finally watching Invincible season 2. I got really behind and I didn't start the first half of the season because they released it like half a season and they were going to wait a while and release the other half. And I was like, well, I'll wait for all of it. And then I forgot about it. So I downloaded it on my iPad and watched it on my trip, and I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm about halfway through, a little bit past that. So hopefully by next week I can finally say I've finished it. Go ahead, Steven.
I did forget to mention that Chris and I did a few more episodes of Secret Level, particularly the Mega Man and Outer Worlds episodes. The fact that some people who worked on the Mega Man one joined the official Capcom Mega Man team
Oh shit!
are making people think that that short, which is 9 minutes, leads into a full-fledged Mega Man game. So take it as you will.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Particularly for that Mega Man one, content-wise, do you think that is something Jennifer? Because I know some of these are more like adult or violent or whatever, but like, do you think this is one she is obsessed? Jennifer's obsessed with Mega Man, so if I can watch it with her, I just want to get your thought on it.
If she can handle something like Astro Boy,
yeah, oh yeah, God, yeah,
like because Astro Boy can get sad too, then Mega Man's fine.
Okay. I just know some of these. I think like Pac-Man or whatever, like they're making them like
more
Pac-Man, violent and other stuff.
Pac-Man is like Creature Commandos amount of gory. So
okay, but as long as Mega Man's cool, if it's only a couple minutes, I'll probably watch it first just in case. But
and then Outer Worlds surprisingly keeps the comedy from the games.
Nice.
I was hoping it would, and it had Christian laughing because he has his macabre sense of humor. So.
I still love that game.
I thought it was very well done. Had some great quotes in there, especially when they go through testing. So he's saying if what that episode has shown, if it's in the game, he's buying the game immediately.
Perfect.
I have to look into it a bit more.
It's a great game if you've never played the first one. The writing is so funny, and the options. Like I said, I tell people the last time I played through it, I put every bit of intelligence as low as it can go and took every little thing that made it lower. Like I had a negative intelligence stat, which opened up an option. It'll say something and it just says in parentheses, stupid.
Wow.
And I would choose that every time it was available. Like I couldn't read. I could not understand shit. I would just make stupid decisions on things or kill people by pressing a button I shouldn't press. It was great. And the fact that they thought all that through makes me just absolutely love that game because you can play it in so many weird ways. So, all right, so let's go ahead and jump into the group chat. Once again, the group chat is our section. Instead of us talking about a subject individually and jumping back and forth about it, if we have multiple people for the same thing, we can all talk about it as kind of like mini segments. So to start us off, we had Helldivers 2, which I know involved Chase, Steven, and I. But Chase, you're the one that first started it, so we'll start with you. Go for it.
Yeah, been playing it with Swan, and I played it a little bit by myself, but not a lot, just only a couple levels.
I played for like 20 minutes.
So it used to be that the FRV or Fast Recon Vehicle was just a add-on that you would maybe or maybe not get sometimes in the maps. It's now actually like officially out, so you can get it, and it's actually really great, especially for the non-city maps where it's just open land. It's awesome. One of the randos that I was playing with brought it, and like it was the best thing to just have, like, be able to just drive from one location to the next. Nice. The new enemies, the Illuminate that they came out with that we talked about last week, they're an interesting enemy. They're not overly difficult, but there isn't really like there isn't necessarily like a super great way to get rid of them. The arc thrower is really good against them. So
to accidentally kill one of you guys.
Impact grenades, because they come in groups, is pretty good too.
Yeah. I found I keep bringing a mech with me, and when we just get overwhelmed, I just grab the mech and start shooting everything.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, the new Major Order, they've kind of like the Illuminate are back, but they're like they've only got like a planet. the new major orders bugs anyway, so the focus is back on bugs right now.
I still love the fact that they refer to the infected people as was like the vote list or something like that. Like, that's your main concern. They can't vote. They're not people anymore. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was pretty on brand.
Yeah, I was shocked, and I mean like shocked, not that shocked, that they said they specifically made the vehicle the way it was because they wanted to create funny comedic moments. So they made it control the way it did for that reason. And I love the fact that by accident, because he was trying to figure out his sound issues, because at the time Jeremy's computer was talking to us, telling us what language he was playing in and everything.
That was so weird still.
And he's like, hey, I just found in the accessibility options that you don't have to change gears on the car. You can just press the left trigger to go in reverse. And I was like, well, that changes everything because that makes it so much easier to drive it.
Yeah, you like it now. It's fine now.
The only glitch I found out is if you aim your gun while you're driving, you go to the passenger seat unless somebody's in that seat.
Oh, shit.
So your car will suddenly slow down. You're like, what happened? Oh, I ran to the other seat to point my gun outside. And I was like, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, that's not good. Oh, Lord. Next thing we had was For the King 2. Chase, I believe that was you and Steven as well.
Yep. It's the sequel to the first one. It's a lot different. Huh?
It's got problems.
It's got problems. But
I haven't picked it up yet, so I'm not even real familiar with it yet.
It's quite different. It's like the combat and everything is completely different. The game looks great. Like it looks.
What kind of
really
game
good.
is it? Because I'm curious.
How would you describe it, Swan?
It's kind of like if Demio took place outside, and you had to do stuff always as a party, like random encounters. So instead of fighting one-on-one, you fight as a party unless you're out of range.
Mm-hmm.
Because it'll take some things from other strategy games, like, hey, you guys can fight together because if you're fighting, since he's close by, he'll join you. He'll stay on the map where he was, but he'll join you in the battle. It does have a lot of, I want to say like roguelike, because you're just supposed to play through it with that character at the time and see how far you get and stuff like that. And when you start a new map, it's level 0 again, new class if you choose to. I'll give you one good point and one bad point about the game right now. One good point is they've kind of taken games like Mega Man Battle Network and made it, instead of just like Final Fantasy where you just pick an attack and do it, now they have primary actions, secondary actions. They have a grid you can move on, like a 2x3, so you can get behind somebody if they have a shield, so they get more defense or can't be hit by arrows because somebody in front of you has a shield to block it. So there's these nice new mechanics that were like, these are very helpful. Tells you if you're able to, if you're in range to help somebody fight a character, you can look at shops before you get there as long as somebody discovered it. But then let's do the bad, which has not been patched yet. When you're creating your character, as long as it's not a hunter like Chase, your character does this like horrible war cry that sounds like trying to tell a fourth grader, give me your best war cry. And unfortunately, they never stop doing the war cry the entire game. They do it on the map. They do it in dungeons. They do it everywhere, always. And the only time it stops is when you're in an actual battle. And I looked all over Reddit, and everybody's just like, yeah, that's there. It's not going to go away until they patch it. They're just, and your character animates, so they're just sitting there going out of nowhere. And sometimes they do it at the same time. It's just loud and it's horrible.
That would drive me insane.
Swan and Shadow's character just do that constantly all the time. My character does it for whatever reason, but which is great. I love it. It drives those two nuts.
Is this? I'm trying to figure out if this would be a game I'd want to play. But
yeah, I think I don't know if it had the same subtitles on this one, but the first game, there was like a little like small subtitle underneath it that said, roguelike tabletop experience, and that still kind of follows suit with number 2. It's meant to kind of emulate, it's a roguelike, but it's kind of meant to emulate like a tabletop almost.
Yeah, because they give you even a warning too, saying like you're gonna die and lose everything you did.
Right.
That's what roguelikes are like. Please don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to kind of do that though, because there's all these ways that when you die we can revive you. So it's hard to die.
Yeah, you have to really let things get out of hand.
Yeah.
What are you guys playing it on?
I think it's crossplay.
Oh,
We're playing it.
It is crossplay. They said, I think on Reddit, they said it's crossplay with PC, and we're playing it on PlayStation right now.
Yeah.
I would double check with the Steam page if you do, though.
Yeah, I'd have to. I can't get it right now, anyways. I am broke for the holidays
And
until next week.
I know this doesn't, but anybody that has Game Pass, I think it's available on Game Pass now as well.
For Xbox.
On Xbox, yeah.
It's available on Game Pass, Jeremy.
Oh, God, we're doing this again.
Game Pass. Bob bowling.
We could play Party Animals. Oh, you need Game Pass.
Oh, yeah. No, we're good.
That's what we should have done. We should have all collectively got him Game Pass for Christmas.
Oh, yeah, that would have been a good idea, actually.
At that point, I
maybe
would end up
next
using
time.
my free ones because I've got a couple months for free, but I don't want to give up all my other.
We'll be like, here's a full year. You have no choice.
I probably would have done it. I would have started my free pass and then added that to it. Lord.
Real quick, adding to Helldivers 2, I do have,
Uh-huh.
I guess I have my dark confession now, which is I do have all the Killzone DLC.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I forgot about that. They added, it's like this real big controversial thing. They did a collab with Killzone, so now you can look like a Hellgast, which is great.
Yeah,
love it.
why is that a problem?
Well, it's because of how much they priced the gun, the armor, the helmet, because it's all in the superstore. And yeah, and so the to get everything, to get the banner, the gun, the armor, the helmet, all that stuff, it's quite expensive, like as compared to other things.
So what did they give away for free?
So what they gave away for free. So if you wanted to look like the regular,
Democracy,
like,
of course.
yeah, if you wanted to look like just the regular, like Hellgast, like, assault infantry, like trooper, that's what was available in the Superstore. That's what was paid DLC. And if you wanted the regular Hellgast gun, assault rifle, that's what was also part of paid DLC. But then because people complained about it, they decided that they'd roll out the second half of the collab for free. And that was, you can look like the Hellgast sniper. They gave you with like the 3 dots, and the cloak over it. It looks cool. You get the, I can't remember if it was it's basically a sniper rifle. It's the accelerator sniper rifle. And then they also give you the Hellgast SMG for free as well. So you get a few things for free. It's like,
that's how you do it though, is if you piecemeal a little bit to them like breadcrumbs, then they're like, but I want the whole set. You knew what it was doing to me. It got to me.
Yeah. They
He's been compromised.
Supposedly this was supposed to be a war bond, and then for whatever reason they didn't do it. They decided not to do a war bond, and they released part of it in the Superstore, and then people got upset at the price, and then they were like, oh well, they decided not to make it cheaper, because then there would be the issue of probably rolling back refunds and stuff. So they just said, we'll give you the second half for free.
I mean, the cost of it, like, how would it compare to what they normally charge for, a war bond? Like, is it up in that range?
Significantly more. So like one war bond is one war bond's 1,000 super credits, and to get all of the stuff, it's like 1,900 super credits. It's almost 2 war bonds.
Yeah, that's way too much, especially with all the other stuff you get with those. I mean,
but me being the kills. Bucks? Yeah, something like probably just a little less than $20.
Okay, so it's basically like 10 pulls at ZZZ.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's still pulling really high because normally you get this stuff in war bonds and they offer so much other stuff you can earn once you pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided not to make it a war bond.
It's a questionable practice. I hope they don't continue. Is my concern,
I don't think they will because they've got quite a bit of backlash, but who knows? They've done some things, like now they started adding stratagems to war bonds, which I didn't think they were going to do. So
yeah,
who knows?
And I hate the fact that those show up in your list. Like they're there, like you don't have it, you can't get it till you do this, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
But if you click on it, it brings you to the war bond.
Yep. So I don't know. I don't know, but the only reason why I got it was because I'm a huge Killzone fan. Killzone 2 and 3 were some of my favorite shooters, particularly 2, because 2 looked amazing at the time.
I still have the helmet from one of them. I think it is actually the sniper helmet, the life-size one.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, I gotta get this. So that's my dark confession. I gave to the Overlord as well.
Chase, every time like Fortnite or something gets like Ghostbusters and stuff like that, trust me, I'm right there with you going, you know what?
What about now? They have Skibidi Toilet and Mariah Carey.
I don't know which is worse.
I got the John Telbane Street Fighter 6 skin, so
we're all guilty.
We've all given to the Overlords.
We are
evil DLC Overlords.
Do watch the trailer though, because they made Mariah Carey seem like this overlord that comes from another world to basically turn everybody into Christmassy items. I'm like, that's hilarious.
I think it would have been kind of a fun big question if we were just like, what IP or what thing would basically make you walk back and just spend the money when you know you shouldn't? Like, what is your line? Because all of this would be a fun discussion. Yeah,
that's a good big. We got to put that on the list.
Let me.
Overwatch just got Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah. Talk amongst yourself while I make a note.
Well, they're trying their hardest.
So yeah. I guess from there we'll go ahead and move on to our news for this week. So let's go. All right. So starting off this week, we're going to be talking about basically a developer having a hissy fit. So after losing the Game of the Year award at the Game Awards recently to Astrobot, Steven's favorite, the team that made Black Myth Wukong, Game Science, has not been taking it well, to say the least. So Game Science CEO and game producer Feng Ji stated that he wrote the Game of the Year acceptance speech for the game 2 years ago because they were so confident that they were going to win that. He said, quote, "The games nominated this year were all excellent, but I really didn't understand the criteria for this year's Game of the Year. Felt like I came here for nothing." Now, mind you, the team members were seen crying and upset at the show over the fact that they lost, even though they were nominated and won many other awards from other shows, and then even at the Game Awards, they got Best Action Game and Player's Voice Award. So they didn't walk away empty-handed, but they feel they deserve to have that Game of the Year over the others. Then there's also a push from fans to review bomb Baldur's Gate 3, simply for Larian Studio being their lead being the one to announce who the winner was. They just read the card, so they're like, all right, they deserve to be review bombed for that. And I'm like, what the shit, guys? They were the first game from a Chinese-made developer that got to that level of being nominated for Game of the Year and then winning all these other awards. Like, it's not a small task, but to sit there and say, like, even after people voted for you as like a People's Choice type award, going, well, we didn't get the big one, so why'd we even bother? Like, why are we even here? And I was like, that's kind of a shitty attitude, guys. Like, I wanted to get y'all's thought on this, like, on kind of the view of that. Steven, you want to start us off?
Sure.
I know you have thoughts. You always have thoughts.
Yeah. Astrobot did not deserve to win at all for something that didn't even reach 2 million in sales. That's one strike against Game of the Year. But
I don't think sales should be.
It didn't do anything to drive the industry forward. It didn't do anything to I don't know, to just change anything. It doesn't do anything except for allow Sony to put a little a little splatter on their next re-release reprint of the game. I agree more with Game Science and the fact that I watched this game being played, and I read through its kind of its like development, not hell but journey, and I think it would have been something to kind of say that, hey, you always expect these greatest games of to always come from either like America or Japan, but to show that something that was made entirely in China can have this kind of appeal and have this kind of pull in the West where it actually sells really well, and to sell millions of copies and to outsell Astrobot. I think nostalgia made people made the committee vote for Astrobot. Either that or the check from Sony cleared, either one. So I agree with more of what the Game Science has been saying. I don't understand the criteria either, because Astrobot shouldn't have been even an honorable mention.
I disagree with that for the fact of saying like, oh, nostalgia is in there, saying like Smash Brothers can't be good because it references Nintendo's history. It's like, it's still a good game. Astrobot was very well made. It was a lot of fun to play, creative with how the mechanics worked. They talked about, where their influences were and stuff like that, but as a platformer, it was great. And I don't think sales numbers need to be a requirement for that. Otherwise, every year it would be nothing but Call of Duty and Madden, because they sell more than almost any of them because they're just the popular title for a lot of that stuff.
I think it should be a criteria.
I don't think so, because like that would basically, by that point, like Fantasio would never win anything, because yeah, it's popular for RPG fans, but its sales are not anything compared to these other titles that are going through. Just because like even with movies, they may not be a big popular movie with like tons of people, but like the people that enjoy it might be something for theirs. That's kind of a weird scale to go by, I think. I mean, I'm not saying like Astrobot's going to be the thing for everybody. I get that, but it's still, I get it that they're breaking ground and they were credited and giving awards for these things, but to kind of expect they deserve to get the game of the year, not everyone's going to get that. Like, basically saying like if anybody else won, it wouldn't work. So it's kind of weird. Chase or Chris, do you guys have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I do agree that I don't necessarily understand what the criteria is either, but like I'm saying it from a different perspective of I don't understand why Elden Ring's on there again, just because of some DLC. Like, I think that's BS. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a pretty decent, like, because I'm just looking at the nominees. You had Metaphor, Black Myth, Elden Ring, Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Balatro. So it's a pretty good like range. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you ask my honest opinion, I probably would have gave it to Black Myth. But I mean, I've played it. I really enjoyed it, and it being one of the first, wasn't it? I don't know if it was the first. I don't want to give it that claim, but I think it was one of the first to be made entirely in Unreal Engine 5. And
I don't think it was the first. I think we've had other Unreal Engine 5 games. Actually, yeah. I'm pretty sure I know we have, because one of them was originally, what was it, from Square? It wasn't super popular one, but it was actually one of their tech demos that ended up becoming an actual game that got released, and that was well before that came out.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of agree with Jeremy's point, though. I don't know that sales necessarily should be like the entire criteria, because if that's the case, Metaphor is probably taken off that list. And I mean, I think if you talk to most people that play Metaphor, they absolutely love the game. So, I mean, I don't know.
I was like, looking at you, Chris.
Yeah, like I said, if you gave the choice up to me, I'd probably give it to Black Myth, because I thought it was a really amazing game. But I've also played Astrobot, and I thought that was a really fun and enjoyable experience as well. So, I don't know. I think it's bad form to say this stuff publicly. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I don't know. Nobody likes a sore loser, and they did like Jeremy said, they did win quite a few awards. So it's not like
And
they
this is
left empty-handed.
Yeah, and this was just from the one place. They've won awards from other places and stuff like that. Um, and then it is a range of games. That's the thing with gaming, just like with movies, you've got such a wide range of them. To compare this and Balatro, they're both great games, but they're very different on every fundamental level. For gameplay, graphics, how much they cost, things like that. Because that also affects the sales as well. I'm sure Balatro's probably sold more copies just because it's cheaper than, Wukong, but we don't know. Chris, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, anyone who's listened to me talk about the Game Awards before know that I think it's a farce. Helldivers 2 got Best Ongoing Game despite being banned in several countries and needing a PSN account. And that doesn't jive with me.
No, I agree.
There are a lot of awards that just didn't seem to work in anyone's favor but Sony's. And
Every year.
And that's the thing. The Game Awards should try and shy away from that kind of stereotype. I would really want them to.
Mm-hmm.
But then they do things like this, putting Astrobot in as Game of the Year, Astrobot being essentially a celebration of Sony, celebration of all the games that we can't play anymore.
Yeah.
And it just feels like a crock. I do think it's very tough to say that a game development studio is a sore loser, because there are people who worked very hard on this. There are people who put a lot of time, effort, sweat, and tears into this kind of thing. So yeah, they're going to be emotional. But
I get that.
At the same time, I don't think they should have put as much stock into the Game Awards as they did, because honestly, aside from trailers, the show means nothing.
Yeah. What was it? The Waldorf and Statler talking about that you've got a couple.
Please wrap it up.
Yeah, you guys
Statler
have got a
and Waldorf, the Larian guy calling out bad business practices, and Team
basically
Asobi,
calling out the game industry.
Yes, and Team Asobi thanking Nintendo for their award were the best parts of the show. Yeah. That almost made up for Metaphor not winning, but
Metaphor won some stuff, I thought. Yeah, I mean the whole situation's kind of a weird one regardless. It's just, I thought it was interesting because that is outside the norm for a lot of people, specifically on the PR side, win or lose, kind of taking that attitude with it. And it's just a different viewpoint for that.
But it's also a different culture,
Yeah,
it's true.
So this might have been a heartfelt plea that may have fallen on deaf ears because of culture differences.
It's a possibility. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight it because I just thought that was kind of an interesting one.
Actually, that's a good point. It could be that he sees it as he's sticking up for his people, people that made this game and stuff. So yeah, I kind of get what Chris is saying. That's possible,
right? All right, so let's move on to our next little bit. All right, so any day now, we're probably going to get an update from Sony about new PlayStation 2 sales numbers, because Nintendo Switch is now the second highest selling console in the US, finally surpassing the PlayStation 2, which had that position. This is according to Circana, which is formerly NPD, and it's working its way towards the top, which is still in the US, the Nintendo DS. Nintendo Switch sold 46.6 million units in the US as of November 30th of 2024. So, mind you, the PlayStation 2, I think, had 13 years of sales. The Switch has only had like 7 or 8. So they technically still have a long way to go. I'm wondering if they'll probably hit the DS mark. I was looking, I couldn't find official numbers on there because they're still kind of restrictive on which at least this group Circana will post on there. But I'm kind of wondering if they're going to, hit the DS level, at least in the US. And I know they're still trying to gun for the worldwide one, even though Sony keeps upping that number slowly.
I bought a PlayStation Retro controller, so that counts as a PlayStation. That's
a PS1, not a PS2.
It's 30th anniversary, so it counts for. They sold a PS1, 2, 3, and a 4.
So I wonder if they'll what they'll probably do is like they had the 30th anniversary thing where your PS5 could be skinned and sound like a PS1 or 2, 3,
for
or 4.
every person who picked the PS2 sound effects, they sold another PS2.
I was one of them, so I added to that total. Just thank you very much. I just want to let.
Is that still available? Because I haven't even turned my PS5 on.
Yeah,
I'm so mad. I'm so mad that it doesn't change the opening because I wanted the PS2 opening.
I know. I
was
a little sad about that.
Oh, well, that sucks.
No, it just pops up PlayStation 30th anniversary.
Yeah, it still gives you a PS1 opening no matter what you pick. But then the sound effects in your background depend on if you pick PS1, 2, 3. So
yeah, Jeremy showed me some of that on his. I still find it funny. People were complaining like Microsoft needs to learn a lesson. Like this is how you do this. And it's like, you realize every time you play a backwards compatible game on an Xbox, it does the full opening of that game and system and
you
everything.
Realize it's for a limited time, so they're going to do an update and remove 30th anniversary.
That still makes no sense to me. That should be a permanent thing, even if it's like
a celebration for as long as you want it.
Yeah, that'd be great. So, do you guys think the Switch is going to eventually take over the PS2? Like, do you think it'll make it? Yeah, I figured you would. Chase, what about you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm on the fence with it. But...
I mean, I think the Switch is still going to sell for a long time. I mean, I'm still seeing people buy them now.
That depends on what the Switch 2 is capable of and what you'll need a Switch to do.
I think...
We're not going to find out till March, but...
part of the problem...
Go ahead, Chase.
I mean, it's perfectly fine and it's fair, and I don't mind it. But at the same time, like Nintendo's like kind of been purposely withholding like saying anything about the Switch 2 because they want the Switch sales to keep coming in because they want that title, they want that, they're gunning for that record, and it's just kind of like, well, if you like, hang on a second, like just give us fucking Switch 2 news already, assholes. But they don't. They want to beat that. They want that title.
At the same time,
they said it'll come out before their next fiscal report.
And then everything after that has just been, this is not Switch 2 news, by the way, just so you know, guys. Like every
but
direct,
at the same time, you know, Sony is not blameless either.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, look, we found more data. Look at all these PS2s we sold. Shit,
I agree that I thought it was real sneaky when they tried that bullshit too. So it's there's fault on both sides.
What was it I put on Discord? It's like Sony's going to come out and announce like they sold another 100 million units once the Grinch returned all the presents to Whoville. That they all had PS2s and they all count as sales.
They're going to give out like free DLC that when you download it says they sold a PS2.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, you know, obviously there's
very
the whole
petty.
Yeah, there was the whole argument too of like, did they actually sell that many PS2s? Because like some of them came from like PS2s breaking and all that stuff. So, you know, the number was inflated anyway, and so it's always it's so funny how companies like try these like petty ass like fights with each other.
See them hanging out like handing out Vitas with the PS2 white out on them.
Oh God. I mean, so even when the Switch 2 comes out, like I understand why they didn't announce news for it right now, because this is the holiday season. This is where a lot of the companies make their sales and stuff. So it kind of makes sense, because if they didn't do it well before Thanksgiving, it would be after the holidays before they made that big announcement, because they don't want to, you know, kill off those potential sales. And there's people I've talked to while I was in some of the stores. They didn't care that a new one was coming out. Like they're just getting it for their kid, or, you know, I've seen a husband was like buying one for his wife because she just wanted to get one, or he wanted to finally play one. I think the Switch hardware itself, because it's so well supported, is still going to sell decently for the next couple of years. Not everybody, you know, I've seen people get an Xbox One recently. Like you were well beyond that. You know, people still ask for PS4s, and not everybody's going to have the newest thing. So, and if they build up that library, the Switch 2 or whatever later on, if it's still compatible, that just carries over, and, you know, eventually they'll do it. So I think they may still do it. I think the biggest thing is, are we going to see a Switch go cheaper? Like, are we going to see a massive discount on it later? Oh hell no, no! They're just gonna make the Switch 2 more
Nintendo
expensive.
will never do anything that they think will devalue their brand. It's just, they
They
have this really weird thing of doing.
I firmly believe the Switch 2 is probably going to be like $500.
450
What
to
we
500. I
might
agree.
see is another iteration of the original Switch
Mm-hmm.
in like a what's the term? Like in between Switch and Switch Lite with some little accoutrements.
Switch OLED XL.
They do that all the time. So,
I have a Game Boy Advance Micro. I'm fully
See?
aware.
The Switch U.
yeah,
I also
Except
have
for screen.
look. I also have a PlayStation Vita TV and a PSP Go. I'm that guy. All right.
See, these companies do that all the time. It's
There
like,
is
well,
now, it's sold out immediately, but there's now somebody made a mod, an easy mod, where you actually will take the PSP system and
I
put
am
it in
working
this
on one.
miniature looking PS2, and
Yep.
then you can play all your PSP games on the TV.
And they probably
It
count
still
every
has-
sale of that as a PS2.
It still has some errors, like in terms of like widescreen support and stuff, but I
Even
love that
I know what
idea,
you're
and
talking
I'll
about.
just like if it becomes affordable, I'll buy that mod kit.
The widescreen support and all that stuff, that's just the normal, because it's the Vita, it's the the PSP's normal TV output. It's cropped in with that window. But if you have like a RetroTink 5X or 4K or even a 2X, I think you can scale it properly to fit and it's fine. That's the only thing you need with it. But that's a whole other thing. All right, so let's move into our next little bit of Sony news here. All right, so we talked about before of Kadokawa Corporation and Sony possibly merging, and apparently they have agreed to form a strategic capital and business alliance, which is not good, I think, for many of us. Sony will acquire 12,054,100 shares for about 50 billion yen, which makes Sony the largest shareholder with about 10% of total shares, including what they'd already acquired back in February of 2021. The companies want to start initiatives for collaboration with bringing Kadokawa's IPs to live action movies, TV, co-produce anime, expand distribution of existing Kadokawa anime work through Sony, further expand publishing of their games, and more stuff, more like that. This will allow for more integration of the large IP base that Kadokawa has, including comics, manga, light novels, and games for Sony to use directly. But we don't have any word on how this will affect titles still coming to other hardware or systems, or the company's future development of games like the recent Mario and Luigi Brothers ship for Nintendo as an exclusive, because Sony will have more of a say to kind of block that or even go so far as restricting it to their own hardware. So, Steven, go ahead.
So I was curious about this because nobody was making it news. So
Really?
I was just like, I thought this would be bigger news other than from Sony.com.
Well, they can't talk bad about Sony. Microsoft, they'll go all over it, but
So I finally found a few things like through IGN, Gamatsu, and it is not a full takeover, and it is more of an alliance. They still don't have as they now are the largest shareholder next to Tencent, so Tencent still has a significant stake in it as well.
right.
The big thing is it says that originally Kadokawa was reportedly only interested in doing a deal with Sony if they bought the entire company. Sony only was interested in extracting assets related to anime and video games because they wanted to either make like a live action Elden Ring or an anime, stuff like that.
Right.
If they tried to buy all of Kadokawa, it would cost them $4.3 billion. And I don't think they want to drop that right now because they already bought Bungie for $3.7 billion and they're not getting returns on that.
Bungie did kind of lie to them a lot, apparently. So,
So it's interesting because I don't think the games are being threatened at all. I think they're just more about we want your anime, manga, and some of the game assets for use in other things, but I don't think they're doing anything whatsoever in terms of games, and that's why it didn't become like a huge talking point or news that day. And I was like, okay, I guess because it wasn't a actual takeover a la Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox, that they're like, yeah, this isn't a big deal yet.
okay. I mean, that's at least better news on what this could have been. That was my main concern, is like, because we've already had issues which have come up in court and other stuff, even though people try to argue it, of Sony making deals with companies going like, we'll allow you to be on PlayStation if you specifically leave out Xbox or stuff like that, which has led to Square games and other titles just skipping the hardware completely or being delayed significantly.
Yeah, because it sounds like while it won't affect the other companies, the studios that are under the Kadokawa umbrella, it just does give Sony kind of first dibs if they want to, do collaborations with any of those.
Right.
So it could mean like you get exclusive DLC. I don't know.
And
maybe they'll announce DLC
so
for Brothership to add another 40 hours to the game. I don't know.
God, that would be my luck. I'd just be like, well, I'm not playing that. I'm hoping they're still allowed to make these games for other stuff, because I know they've been successful in working with Nintendo and making specific Nintendo titles, which I think even you, when you posted on Discord, were like, "R.I.P. Mario and Luigi."
Yeah, because the
the
one article, the Sony article just made it kind of ambiguous of what was going on, and I was waiting for other companies to join in and do, actual legwork and find out what's going on, and places like IGN and Jamatsu did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, okay, that's better. It makes me feel better that, hey, things are going in a okay direction, like nothing bad's happening and it's not a full takeover.
Right.
So that was good to hear, because of these two, because I was like, that's all we need right now.
Yeah, like I'm also curious, like in the future of like the Dark Souls or an Elden Ring series, like some of them are already PlayStation exclusive, like Bloodborne and so forth, which, as much as everybody wants it, they apparently just don't want to. That's the one game that could use an update. Like, do a remaster
or
of that
sequel.
one. You could, yeah, something. They're just going to give us Last of Us Part 2, Part 3 or something. I don't know.
Remaster of Us.
Remaster of Us. I like that.
Oh, God. People aren't infected by fungus. They're just remastered. Like, that's the whole terror. God damn it, Chris. That's great. All right. So we'll move on to that, to some Sega news. So Sega is weirdly talking about starting a Netflix-like service for their games in the future. Maybe a modern day take on the Sega Channel, if anybody remembers that from back in the day. Sega president Shuji Utsumi stated, quote, "We're thinking something and discussing something we cannot disclose right now." So that's definitely not the most informative statement. So what adds to this, though, is Sega did just recently delist all of their classic games, re-releases and collections, both from all the major consoles, on Steam, on PC, and other places as well. If you didn't get them, I think by earlier this month, they were just gone. And I'm wondering how this will potentially affect, and I'm kind of curious what you guys think. What will this affect for like the Sega Genesis games on Nintendo Switch Online? Do you think, like, when the Switch 2 comes out, could that be removed from the service on that one? Like, only people on the Switch 1 may get to keep it because of a license, but they could go away in the future. Steven, go ahead.
I don't think it'll affect Nintendo, because they made it less like a ROM dump, where you just get that specific game.
Right.
And they made it because they have online support for all their games. I think because of that one little speciality, kind of like how GoldenEye on Switch has lobbies, GoldenEye on Xbox has nothing. So
still super weird about that, but yeah.
So I think it's going to be different enough that it's a different contract. So I don't think anything will get delisted on that side, which,
okay,
I think that's just what they made sure to do, is they didn't want everything to be just that game. And that's why some of these other publishers have been doing classic games as like collections. So it's harder to get them delisted.
Yeah.
I must say, though, that Utsumi is on a roll right now, because he was actually the person to come on stage during the Virtua Fighter Direct, which was a surprise. You don't see usually a bigwig come, and he spoke in full English about getting excited for Virtua Fighter's 30th anniversary and being like the forefront of 3D fighters. And they even had the guy who worked on NVIDIA, and he's just like, we did a collaboration with Sega with our very first NVIDIA chip to make stuff like Panzer Dragoon and Virtua Fighter, and he's like, we're working with them again on the next one.
Yeah, I was
And
like, they're making
that's
an
really
arcade
cool
cabinet?
too, to have this long relationship with NVIDIA. So I was like, that's 2 points for them already. So I was like, yeah, he's on a roll. And then he had to say something stupid.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. But what I need to ask first, because Chris, you were not on here prior, but did you have any thoughts about the new Virtua Fighter coming out as the fellow fighting game lover here?
I've always been pretty crap at Virtua Fighter, but I can't deny that it is a milestone in fighting game technology, and I've followed it from its very first iteration. So seeing the fact that it's done at the same time as another Yakuza by the same company, no less, same development studio, it's pretty cool. I am going to look forward to it. I tried playing the beta, and I got whacked by someone who knew what they were doing, but it was still fun. So I'll definitely look into it.
Makes me wonder if the character from that game that they're developing will be like a extra character in Virtua Fighter. Like,
Oh,
it just
absolutely.
makes sense.
There's no doubt.
It's
that
not
will be
it's
happening.
not an if now, it's a when Virtua Fighter will be added to Tekken 8.
Right. It's, as the corporations like to say, it's synergy.
Yes. Although
Sorry,
Just don't put Akira in there. Please don't put Akira in Tekken.
oh boy. The one thing I don't like is the whole delisting thing, because that is something that Sega's done far before all of this. In order to sell new collections, they delist the individual versions. And
Well, the
I've
reason
never approved of.
Yeah, the reason I was asking about the Nintendo Switch Online side of it is because that's the only part that I haven't heard one way or the other. But they did delist the Genesis Classics collection from the eShop, so that is gone. Which once again, I have it physically, so yay for cartridges. You can't
And they
take
have
that
been
shit.
reprinted, but once those are gone, they're going to cost $60. So get them while you can.
Yeah, the one that's really hard to find is the 3DS, their 3D collection, because that had some really great ports that actually had really good 3D effects. So that's one I'm glad to have gotten the cartridge for. So yeah, Sega had some other weird announcements during an interview, so let's jump to that. So Sega president Shinji Itsuми recently stated in an interview with The Guardian, and when asked about the possibility of future mini consoles, he said, quote, "I'm not going for the mini direction. It's not me. I want to embrace modern gamers." And he continued, "We are not a retro company. We really appreciate our legacy. We value it. But at the same time, we want to deliver something new. Otherwise, we'll become history. That's not what we're aiming for." And then Sega themselves did come out and clarify that later that they have no plans for mini systems after the Genesis Mini and Genesis 2 mini systems, which were pretty much like the cream of the crop of the mini systems other than the ones Nintendo put out. Like, they were, I would say, the same level of quality, both in design and the games and how they played. Like, it was great. But so we're not going to be seeing a Saturn or a Dreamcast. It just feels like such an ass backwards thing to say, because Sega has always done collections and mini things. And
if he had just said, we really appreciate our legacy, that'd be fine. But for him to say we are not a retro company, I'm like, dude.
they're what, like the second oldest of the system, the companies. I think like maybe around Sony might be a little bit
you're
older.
a jukebox manufacturer called Service and Games that abbreviated themselves to Sega, and you're going to say you're not a retro company? Jukebox.
I mean, people still enjoy the older titles. Like, there are people now, it's not retro. Like, there's kids that have a Switch that are playing these Genesis games for the first time on there, and that's not always a retro thing to them. It's still a new game to them. People,
you literally just had an initiative last year where you're bringing probably a pretty bad Crazy Taxi, a pretty bad Golden Axe, a pretty bad Streets of Rage, a pretty good Shinobi, and some other ones back.
We haven't heard anything about those. Like, they went quiet after we.
I still think Crazy Taxi is going to be a battle royale, and it's going to be.
God, I hate the fact that I agree with you.
And to know that it has police cars and everything in it, it's going to be. So.
It hurts me. God, I want that game to be so good. I love Crazy Taxi. It was a freaking wedding gift for me. Somebody gave me Crazy Taxi on the Dreamcast, along with Perfect Dark, actually, which is kind of funny. But yeah,
you have my attention at Shinobi. I love that series.
we don't know what they're doing with these yet. Like we got little hints at it. I think the one that I have the most hope for is the Jet Set Radio, because it looks like that's just going to be a big open world version, which I'm okay with. Like I'd rather have the maps and not have to have loading times, just go between it and do whatever. But I love Jet Set Radio and Jet Grind Radio. So
I hate all of Jet Set Radio and everything it stands for.
well, Steven, I stand for it. You hate
I
me
don't.
too?
I guess you'd say I don't understand. Understand.
I can't help it. You don't have taste.
It was burnt.
Oh, it's a great game. I played it on the Dreamcast. I played it on the Xbox.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. I enjoyed it. Every minute of it. So that's the only one I'm hopeful for. It seems like they're going in a good direction for it. I'll at least enjoy it.
I'd rather play Kiss Cycle Circus.
That wasn't a great game. All right. So let's move on from that weird Sega news to a little bit of DC nerdiness that I've been looking forward to. All right. So the first teaser trailer for Superman, which will be the first live action movie in the new DC universe we talked about earlier, being created by James Gunn and Peter Safran and starring David Corenswet as Superman, finally came out the other day and has now officially become the highest viewed movie trailer Warner Brothers has ever put out, which is great. So it's like a 2-minute, 20-second trailer, I believe, about 2.5 minutes. And it's referred to as the teaser, but it feels more like an actual trailer to me. That kind of gives a feeling of what expectations are going with this movie. But Creature Commandos, as we talked about earlier, is the first official part of the universe with an animated look into the world. Those voice actors, specifically like Frank Grillo, who is voicing Rick Flag Sr. in the series, has been shown to be in Superman playing the same character. He's going to be the live action version of Rick Flag Sr. So it's kind of nice of the consistency. The rest of the cast, we're seeing Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Millie Alcock as Supergirl, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, Pruitt Taylor Vince as Jonathan Kent, which I thought was an interesting choice for that. Anthony Kerrigan as Metamorpho, which I've never seen a live action take on this, so that's going to be cool. Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, Alan Tudyk as a yet unknown character. I'm thinking maybe Brainiac, but that guy voices so many different characters, including characters in Creature Commandos, because they're using characters that they can't easily do in live action. So I wonder how that's going to go. And then Nathan Fillion as the best damn Guy Gardner I have ever seen. Why are you upset by that?
He looks like he's part of an SNL sketch.
He's supposed to. That is Guy Gardner. He's got the stupid haircut, the asshole attitude. Like, that is Guy Gardner.
He didn't look asshole enough. He looked like he smelled the garlic chips Chris has been eating. He did.
I mean, we got to see him for all of like 3 or 4 seconds. So
I know we're piecing things together because a lot of, other than Superman, obviously, it looks like they already formed a team because they were all wearing like the same type of suits too.
Yeah, because it seems like, because the way they're doing this, Superman is not like some new hero that's showing up. This is in a world that already has heroes. It's already kind of built. There's hints at other ones that have been in there. I think like one of the newspapers showed Gorilla Grodd, which kind of leans towards the Flash being somewhere. You know, we're seeing Guy Gardner, so we already know the Green Lanterns are there. Hawkgirl, we don't know if that's the version where it's the people to have the suits that can use it, or if she's actually a Thanagarian. I don't know yet. Looks like she's got her mace though, so that'd be kind of cool at the nth metal. So there's already people kind of existing in that where Superman is coming into that world. We know that there's a Green Lantern TV series they're working on doing that's kind of exploring more of the actual Lantern Corps, which Guy Gardner could be kind of connected to just because it's a Green Lantern. I like the fact they gave him the stupid hair. But the company they were with seems to kind of like hired or trying to fund a group, which is why those guys like Mr. Terrific and them have similar outfits. Because that was Stag Industries, I believe, is what it said on there. And this movie is supposed to kind of like just start in the middle of the action and then kind of fill out from there. So we're not getting an origin story and all that stuff. Hell, the trailer itself, if you go back and watch it, never once actually says the name of the movie, because everybody already knows it's Superman. It's so well known for such a long time. There is no need to just have the name. It's just Superman. We know that. And I thought that was kind of interesting. The music they had during the trailer is kind of a guitar take on the John Williams score from the 1978 film. And I like the fact that they've pretty much made that theme just Superman's theme. In one way or another, it's been used in Superman Returns, Man of Steel. Like, all of them have had a connection to that. And while some people expected a new theme for each movie, I like how somebody else described it. It's almost like the James Bond theme. You'll have takes on it, but that theme is always going to be with James Bond. This theme, I think, will always be with Superman. And I think it's fitting just for how that one was done. But I want to ask your guys' thoughts on this trailer. I know I am overtly excited about it. I will talk so many happy little things about it and references of like where they got the material from, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I don't want to sit here and talk the whole time. So Steven, I'll let you go first. What you got?
Do you want me to start with the bad or the good?
Please don't shit on my love. I'm having fun with this guy. I'm so excited.
I'll start with the bad.
Okay.
Which are my concerns really.
Okay.
Like I can't crap on a teaser trailer unless it's all about Guy Gardner. Then I'll crap on it.
I just want to nerd out about it. Good, the bad, whatever. Let's go into it.
But the bad is, like, I'm worried that you're putting a lot of characters in this first movie here, and it's not like Creature Commandos where it can be multiple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's one movie, and are you hoping to have spin-offs of all the other characters to help enrich them in other media? Because this is a lot to put in, like, what I would think would be like the third Superman movie. And I understand they want to fast forward. I don't want another origin story. I would have blew up Krypton if they were going to do another origin story. I would have killed Uncle Ben again. I don't care.
Real quick. Gunn did address that. Not all these characters are not in there to seed other movies. Gardner might show up with Green Lantern, which makes sense because you're talking about the whole Lantern Corps, but they're not like planning on making a Mr. Terrific movie and a Hawkgirl movie, and all this other stuff. It's just, this is a world that's populated that has other superheroes. So they're not just going to sit there and act like they don't exist.
In the same retrospect though, if you're going to show all these characters, that means when it makes sense, you need to bring them back. You cannot have, say, the Avengers fight in Spider-Man's backyard and he's busy off-world. Where was Spider-Man? Like, you can't do things like that. So they can't go to anybody else's area. Like, I better not see Gotham or anything unless they're going to give us teases. But I better not see Gotham or Star City or anything else that's supposed to have a different superhero in there, because I think that's going to mess with it. So that was my biggest concern. I'm welcome to see how Lex does. He kind of looks like a budget Agent 47, but I was just like, all right, let's see how mean you can be, because at least you're bald.
He seems...
it's weird seeing Luthor Corps instead of Lex Corps.
I liked that detail because that's actually not an unheard of thing. Because when the Luthor family started the business, it was Luthor Corps until Lex took it over and made it Lex Corps because he wanted to make it himself, not his family. So we could see that change.
Those are my concerns.
Yeah.
On the good side of things, I like it that the dog is completely CGI, so they can just make it do whatever it needs.
Good CGI too. Like that looked great.
I'm appreciative of the fact that it's already an endearing depiction. It's not the normal golden retriever looking dog again. It's not even the one that we saw in those weird Super Pets movies. So at least it's not that. And the other thing was, let me see if I can remember now.
He still has a little collar.
Is even though they basically showed the beginning saying, "Hey, you like Dragon Ball Z? Here's Yamcha as Superman."
I thought that was so funny.
But on the other aspect, this is the first time in a while that they're not giving us the kind of like the Superman is Jesus. He can't ever go wrong. Like, this is showing his vulnerability right away, where
Yeah.
every other movie so far has just been like, he's gonna mess shit up, and he can make you forget things by kissing you. He can change his race. He can do all these things that he can do in the comics. He can throw his Superman symbol at people who trap them.
The
Stuff.
cellophane, yeah.
Everybody hates the MacGuffin he can come up with. We're like, well, he needs to win, so he has to come up with something he didn't pick out of his repertoire. So it's nice seeing this time, like, okay, what's beating the crap out of him? But I think what's beating the crap out of him has to make sense. So I was just like, as long as that ties in, good. So.
I want to say, because it's been shown for part of it, Ultraman is tied in here somehow, which, like I said, I agree. We don't know how this is all going to build up because it's starting a new universe, which I know a lot of people hate, but I'm going to at least give it a chance to see where they go with it, because they're, instead of trying to force everything at one time, they're kind of building it up a little bit better.
Yeah, because he says if it doesn't work, he's not going to keep going. He's not going to keep doing it.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's, at least he's being honest about it.
So putting everything into it.
Yeah. Chase, do you have any thoughts on it? We don't have to agree. It's okay.
Hashtag
be
not
honest
my
about it.
Superman.
Just don't be a Snyder bitch.
I was gonna keep my mouth shut.
No, go ahead. I don't want you to.
You know,
feel
you
like
want
you can't
Cavill to
say
be a
something.
Space Marines. Leave him alone.
Oh, I don't care about that. I think Superman looks great. I think although the one thing that you said that confused me was the Golden Retriever comment. Crypto's always been white. It's always been a white dog. What the hell's he been Golden Retriever?
Yeah, it's. I think he meant like the size of the dog, not really.
Yeah. Sorry, white Golden Retriever. Does that make it better for you?
He's always been.
So it's not Golden Retriever.
He's
always
from
been
Krypton.
Drawn... They can do whatever color they want. Purple.
Well, I'm curious which origin of Krypto are they going to go with? Is it going to be the one from Kandor? Is it? I don't know.
Found him from a Kryptonian adoption center.
He just found him as a puppy.
Took him away from Guy Gardner because Guy Gardner's ugly.
As he should.
No, I'm not upset about any of that stuff. I mean, Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern, I'm a little bit sad about. I wish he would have got like maybe different character, but that's fine.
Well, it's whatever. He's not Green Lantern. It's specifically
okay.
Guy Gardner, and I was like, Nathan Fillion can play an asshole in such a great way.
Did you ever see the what was it called? Dr. Horrible's something blog?
Yes.
Sing along?
Yep.
Dr. Horrible sing along blog.
Yeah.
Yep.
You ever see that? He's basically Captain Hammer again.
Okay.
That's what he's doing.
Fine, fair enough. But
because we're gonna get Hal, we're gonna get like I think they've already cast Jon Stewart, which is one of my favorite Green Lanterns. We're getting those. They will be here later on.
What the thing for me is, so like I'm gonna give this movie a chance just because it's James Gunn and he's, I have faith in him. But at the same time, it's like kind of hard for me to get excited because it's just another superhero movie. I'm just like, oh boy, another one. Who would have guessed like that another one was going to come out? It's just like, I'm definitely hitting that like superhero fatigue of like this just like mass produced mediocre shit constantly. And I hope this movie proves me wrong. I hope. But like, I struggle with the last superhero movie that I saw was Deadpool and Wolverine. And it was a long time. There was a long break between me seeing that movie. The only reason why is because Deadpool will have my love forever. That movie was great. And that movie like did a lot of things that made me really appreciate the movie because like you just don't really get that stuff from a lot of other Marvel movies.
Disney's going to make him do it till he's 90.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck you, Fox. I'm going to Disneyland. Damn. Like just stuff like that. I love that stuff. Which I mean, don't get me wrong, no other Marvel character does that. But it just
I'm about to say that's
fact
very
that they said,
unique to it.
Yeah, but just I don't know. I just enjoy those movies. I have this problem with like the fact that what Disney's done now with this whole, and I mean, kind of DC's doing it kind of too now with Creature Commandos. I didn't know anything about that until Jeremy brought it up earlier today.
It's so good.
It's just this whole thing of like, hey, you got to watch this movie. But if you want to know what's going on, if you want to know references to it, now you got to watch this TV series. oh, now you gotta like, oh, you did watch the whole TV series, or you're not know what's going on here, and then you gotta watch this other movie and this other movie and this other movie. Then we're gonna have a whole nother phase after this, and it's just like,
Well,
That's comic books.
I'm about to say, I don't think that's going to be how it
No.
is for everything. That would be like saying
Comic
I
books,
shouldn't.
half the time when you read them, Chase, they have a little asterisk saying, as seen in blah, blah, blah. So when they talk about a war, you won't know anything about the war unless you read that comic book.
yeah,
I mean,
nah, I'm
that's kind of how it
And
is.
that's
for
why I
ongoing
don't read
stuff.
comic books.
That's a lie.
Yeah. So all those boxes right there are nothing but comic books.
that's
One
fine.
whole
Like,
nothing but one story. One story takes an entire box in there, which is the Green Lantern, Brightest Day or Darkest Night and Brightest Day. So
that's fine, but like, it's just been so mass produced. Like what I was watching, because I used to watch every movie religiously in phase one, and it was great. Like, I thought it was great. And then like, after the Avengers stuff, I was like, okay, like, cool. Like, they've capped it. Like, this was a really fun time. And then they were like, oh no, now we've got this TV series, and then we've got more movies, and then we got more of this, and we got more of that, and we got more of this, and you got to keep on top of it all. And you got a full-time job, like this is your second job, like. And I was just like, no, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And
go ahead.
I attribute this though to the movie industry tends to do this thing where they find something that's popular and then they just milk the fuck out of it. It goes from being like, it goes from being like a nice like family. It's like it goes from being like a nice family-owned dairy farm to like factory farmed to the nines, and it's just like it's just
Man, that's like battle royale games or gotcha games or fighting games.
totally agree with it, and I hate it that they do that too.
So
Yep.
my response
Sucks.
Chase, one word or two words actually: Warhammer. We played through Warhammer Space Marine 2, which had the whole story from the first game to go into, and how many questions did I have to keep asking you because I wasn't familiar with the world, or what is this thing, or what's the background on that. Everything is people have to step in at any time. Like, every one of these are supposed to be made where people that are enjoying the whole series get the references, but then people that are new are still coming in, which that was what happened with Warhammer with me. And that's what happened with comic books all the time. They usually have different arcs and things you can pick up. And if you want to learn more, you can, but rarely is it required where they don't go in and explain it. Steven, go ahead.
So the big thing I want to say, which why they should space it out, I believe it should always be connected, is because the main fact is I'm sick of how many times, like I mentioned before, how many times Bruce Wayne's parents got shot. I'm sick of how many times that Spider-Man had to have some responsibility. I'm sick of how many times Superman's planet had to get destroyed. And while it's nice to have it throughout the ages, you had different actors play it. We're at the point right now where you can get it into something connected. The companies are big enough, unfortunately for everybody, they're bloated and big enough that they can afford to keep somebody on the payroll, so we don't have to keep retelling those stories. It's easy in animation to just keep giving us Batman stories. I appreciate that because those are some of the best stories told. But when it comes to live action, you just have to keep it connected.
I don't have a problem with it being a connected universe, though.
Do whatever you want in animation, but I was just like, keep it all connected and keep it going. But you have to keep releasing more in order to keep it going, or people will forget. Because that's the problem with the continuity of that too, is they have to keep it going. One thing I learned in a marketing class too, which happens to comic books and has recently happened to Disney, is you have to keep making more material with certain characters, because if you do not use that character within a certain set time, it becomes public domain, and then they can't renew the trademark anymore. So they're like, oh, we have to keep making these. So I don't feel that there's always going to be a rift between, certain directors or actors and stuff like that. Like, I would never do a Marvel film, but then you have people like Harrison Ford, who says he's had so much fun doing Red Hulk and he hopes he gets used until he dies. He says as Red Hulk, he loves it.
Yeah,
He
because I
loves the
found out
role.
recently he actually went to them and asked for the role. I was like,
Yes, because
oh,
he
shit.
said he saw so many people in the community having so much fun over at Disney and Marvel that he's just like, I want a piece of that. It's time to have fun. I'm done with Star Wars, so now I can move into a new venture. And he's
Paint
just
me
like,
red.
I'm meeting so many cool people, and he's just enjoying himself. Which usually he's very, very stoic. So
He's crashing off planes. He doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, I attribute this whole thing to westerns, because like the movie industry used to just be flooded with westerns, and now
Oh, it happens.
superhero movies have
Yeah.
become the new westerns. And
Well,
so
remember
like
after Star Wars, it was flooded with space movies, and
And that's the thing.
yeah.
After a while, they're going to get played out, and we're going to move on to a new thing.
yeah,
That's
that's
just
I'm
the
just
way
waiting
that
for the
it's
new
gonna
thing
work.
at this point though. I'm just like I'm the old man yells at cloud in this case, because I'm just like I'm kind of over it. Like I don't need constant superhero movies all the time. I appreciate superhero stuff. I'm a big Batman fan. I love DC, so that's another reason why I'm going to give this a shot. I think
I get where you're coming from. A part of it, I think, just because this is tied with comic books, though, like that continuity and stuff is kind of a requirement. Otherwise, we do get just individual stories because they're made to be kind of living worlds for people, but not. It's not like these have stopped other movies from being made. Other things have started and tried and done stuff. It's just, hey, if this is what you like, just like people that love anime, I don't watch that much anime, but I'm not calling for them to stop making it, even though I think it is just
I'm not saying that they
everywhere.
should stop
Well,
making anime. I'm not
yeah.
saying they should stop anything, but I
wasn't trying to mean you that it meant that.
yeah.
I'm not putting words in your mouth, I promise. One thing I would suggest, and I know you just said you didn't want to have references for stuff, but the part of the inspiration for the design of the movie and the story they're following is one called All-Star Superman. Somewhere in those boxes I have the books, but they made a really good animated take on it. Like, I really liked, they stuck with the animation style. They did really good voice casting, and they covered the series because it was a kind of a short series. But they covered the whole thing. You can find it online to stream it, but if you can get a hold of the Blu-ray and stuff, it's got some great extras. But that kind of gives you an idea where they're showing Superman is powerful as he is, but also very based in his humanity for how he connects to people, which I think is the biggest issue they've had with Superman over the years. And I think the version they've had, like from Superman and Lois and Superman recently that just ended, I still got to watch the 4th season. I can only stream it on CW. It's annoying, but I really liked how they took that version of him. He was not all, he was always hopeful, as Superman should be, because him being all depressing and moody was one of the issues I had with the Cavill version. He always just seemed kind of separated from humanity, not in a way of like Clark questioning, his place in the world, but just almost feeling too alien and too separated and too dark about everything. And I like the more hopeful version of Superman because that's kind of feels how he should be. Just like Batman should be the dark and brooding one because that's Batman. As much as I loved Adam West, that was such a weird version of Batman back then. It fit with the comics though. Back then during Golden Age Batman, or Silver Age Batman, that was how it was. That was him. So I recommend giving that a try to read it. If you can also read all Superman for All Seasons is another really good one that I think they're drawing from for part of this. But I want to talk about some of the design choices they had to see what your thoughts of, because this is the first time in a while we have seen a brighter colored, actual pop color Superman with the trunks. He's got them outer underwear again, which is great. They brought those back. And I liked the actor playing him. His explanation was it was almost like Superman kind of chose the brighter colors and that design because he's almost like a wrestler. Like kids will see him and be less afraid because it's like a wrestler's costume type thing. But what did you guys think of the suit, the redesign of that? Chase, you want to start us off? What are your thoughts on it?
No, it looked good. I'm pleased with how he looked and how Lex looked, and with the look of most of the people.
Except Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
I think that's on purpose. Guy Gardner's supposed to look like an asshole. Steven, go ahead.
He looked like a clown.
That's Guy
I'm
Gardner.
mostly behind the Superman outfit, except for when I can't see the symbol when it's the same color as the rest. Because there was a few scenes where
he was burned.
It's blue with the rest of the suit. So I'm like, what is that?
Well, I think during that one, like that whole shoulder and stuff was black. Something had like burned part of the suit.
Yeah, so it'll be interested to see like who, where that suit even comes from. So I'll see.
I think his mom made it. I've always liked that explanation. Chris, what about you?
I don't remember much of the suit. I remember seeing the Clark Kent persona and the dog, but I don't remember much of the suit itself. I only watched the trailer once, so it's not fresh in my mind.
I can't have lost track of how many times I've watched it. One thing I did like is the S symbol is directly taken from Kingdom Come. It's the Alex Ross design, where the S is formed by more of one large stripe going across the middle. And it does have the yellow outline on the outside. You were worried about that, Stephen, with the separation, which is taken from the old like Max Fletcher design, or the Golden Age comic where he had that on the outside of it. Instead of it being black underneath, which is what the Kingdom Come version was, this one does still have the blue. So it's not the depressing older version of Superman that series had. We talked about Crypto already, which I'm actually happy that they're going with that weird part of Superman. That seems like something that is left out of a lot of things, or it's referenced just like with Superboy. They did a good job of using him in Titans. They kind of had a version of Crypto there that I really enjoyed. He's shown up in a couple of the cartoons and things, but I don't know. I'm glad that they're kind of embracing that weird side of Superman. How they're going to do it, I don't know yet. There's so many different histories and things they could choose from. We don't know. And I know I am just sitting here picking apart a 2-minute trailer, but I love this shit. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's going on with it. So,
but Chris, what did you think of the trailer?
Much like Chase, I stopped watching superhero movies after Marvel Act
Not alone.
1. I thought it was done. I thought it was over, and I didn't want to depend on Disney Plus for all my comic or Star Wars news. The movie seems interesting. It's going to be in an interesting direction because my guess is that they're showing all of these other heroes because they are going to be the pillar of strength for him for a change. Usually, whenever Superman is in a movie or a show or a game, he is the last resort. That's where One Punch Man comes from. He's the guy they put like, oh God, we'll never win. And Superman's just like, and the show's over. I think this time, Superman is going to need help from everybody else. And that would be a nice change. So we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like I'm Chris. I think you're the main comic book other person that I know. Chase, Steven, I'm not as knowledgeable on how much comic book stuff you guys are into, but do you remember after Crisis on Infinite Earths where I think it was Rick Byrne and them redid Superman and kind of it was in the mid part of the 80s where he was powerful, but they kind of toned him down a bit. He could get his ass kicked more. He didn't have all these ridiculous powers, kind of when they wrote out a lot of the stuff from the 50s and 60s and 70s that had happened.
Well, back in those days, Superman just had whatever power they needed at the time.
Yeah.
They didn't even write it down. They just gave him whatever.
Oh, it got out of hand. Some of those are great. But it feels like they're kind of going more with that. And another example of that was Superman from the animated series. That
new
one,
or old?
The old one. I still need to watch the new one. But the ones
that one's good.
I've heard. It's just I keep forgetting to go back and watch it, just like I did with Invincible. So I should watch that on my break. But the one that eventually that showed up in Batman the Animated Series on occasion, or was the one they used for Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I always really liked that version of him because you could see him get punched around, but you could also see him, get back up, and specifically like his fight with Darkseid, where he's finally like, hey, I have to walk around the world like everything's made of cardboard and always be careful with
Yeah,
everybody. But you,
that's the speech for Superman. So
and you remember what I'm talking about. It's like,
Yeah.
but with you can take it. With you, I can finally let loose. And you just see him beat the living shit out of him.
Yeah.
He still gets beat in the end. Darkseid still is Darkseid, but you see him let loose and like punch him for like miles through buildings and just like shooting around really quick.
I think this all comes at a good time though, because I'm trying to follow it as much as I can without buying the comics, because I kind of usually wait for graphic novels so I
Okay.
get the whole experience.
I get that.
But what I've read for the Absolute series has been nothing but phenomenal. Absolute Batman not being a rich bitch, and his insignia actually being part of his axe, and he's just a garbage man. The fact that Joker got his name because he never laughs, and he's kind of a sickle that way of how evil he is. And then Absolute Superman never growing up with the Kent family and actually arriving on Earth as a fully grown adult. So it's taking new stabs at stories that I was just like, finally we're not just getting like bearded Luthor versus bald Luthor. We're actually getting completely different stories that people are embracing, because it's kind of breaking the norm. So I think DC's on a good run this year with what they've been deciding to do.
I don't mind those for like Elseworlds and stuff, but I think for some of the characters, you're going to have some of the core stuff. Like, I don't know. Sometimes you can wander so far from a character, you might as well just make a different character.
the thing with that, I do have one bit about that.
Uh-huh.
Remember, original Superman was created during wartime.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was a symbol.
Yes.
Think of the world as it is now, the country as it is now.
Hasn't
It needs
changed.
a new type of Superman,
Yeah.
a new type of Batman. So that's what we have. I think these are more heroes for the times, for better or for worse.
And Batman, Superman, all of them have changed multiple times over the decades. I'm not saying one is definitive over the other. I mean, we were just talking about that of like the 50s Batman and Superman are so much different than what happened in the 70s. Like the 70s, late 70s, early
Hopefully they
80s
took away most of his powers that he had in the 50s and 60s and 70s.
But you've got like, what was it, Neil Adams, and then when they redid Batman in the late 70s and early 80s, where they had the gray and blue suit and really focused on the detective side of it, and that's where you got like Ra's al Ghul and all this other stuff, like defined Batman in such a different way, which is the one I grew up with.
Right.
And that also ended up becoming, with Frank Miller and The Dark Knight Returns, which affected the movies forever. Very different takes on people. And I remember, reading about people getting upset because, they've made Batman so dark, when they were thinking of how he was in the 50s and 60s and the Adam West show and stuff like that. So I'm not against them changing and trying different things. I get that, and it needs to happen.
That's why they're under a different name. That's why they're
Yeah.
under a different. It's basically an AU.
Well,
Absolute Superman and Absolute Batman are their own separate thing.
Yep.
It's not going to screw with the main continuity. So,
well, even then, like, this is one thing that always drives me nuts. I don't want to be that kind of person that's just like, oh, you're ruining my childhood. It's like, the comic books are still there. You can still read them. It's fine. The story does not go away. I can go back and read all of those. If the new one is a nice take on it, cool. It seems weird to me because I am very used to some of the other takes. And I know certain characters, they have certain characteristics. Like Batman usually doesn't have the don't kill, even though I know he started off in his first issue. He fucking shot a guy, hung a dude from a plane. He killed people. I get it. They changed. But normally Batman doesn't kill. Superman should be the hopeful one, Wonder Woman, the Amazonian thing and everything going from there.
That's what the S stands for. Hope.
That was a weird take on that. Yeah.
I will say Absolute Superman does stand for a kind of hope, but it's more, I'll let you read it, but I would say definitely look into it.
I do need to read it. I'm not against different changes on stuff. It's just one of those things for just kind of the design of the character for certain stuff seems weird, but I love Elseworlds. I've always loved those stories, so I like different takes on things. I'm not against that at all. So,
I'd say definitely watch the My Adventures with Superman thing,
Yeah, I
because
need to.
that will give you a good idea of what they're trying to do with Absolute Superman, but
Oh, okay.
less extreme, let's say.
I think I'm curious on the Batman one because I've always been a huge Batman person.
Yeah,
But
My Adventures with Superman is a big departure, but
and I'm
But
okay
it
with
still
that.
has the framework.
Yeah,
it's very interesting, and there is some Easter eggs in there which I like too.
nice. The last thing I want to talk about is I know you guys haven't watched the trailers much, and I've been kind of obsessed with it, but my favorite part of the trailer, kind of just showing how I think the effects are going to be for this movie or how they treat his powers. There's a particular scene, there's some kaiju that looks like a giant axolotl smashing stuff around, which is great. I thought that was hilarious, and people are debating on where it could have come from. Like, is it, if Brainiac is there, is it some Kryptonian creature he brought back or some other thing, or Lex Luthor, whatever? It doesn't matter. But there's a scene where it stomps its foot down, and you barely notice it's happening in the background, but there's a bunch of like these yellow pylons and gas bottles and stuff that get launched out, and this little girl's sitting there. And the way they did it was with Superman just shooting in really fast and kind of embracing the girl to make sure she doesn't get hurt, and the stuff hitting him and blowing around, kind of showing like he's still very powerful. He's very, I don't want to say invulnerable or indestructible because we start this trailer off with someone's beat the shit out of him, but he can take a beating, for a lot of this stuff. But the look of that, of showing like his super speed and the invulnerability and stuff like that, and the way the suit looked and all that, I think is part of what got me very much excited for this take on Superman, where they can show his abilities, I think, in a fun way. And that ended up being kind of like the part of the trailer that really stuck with me for a lot of it. Did you guys have any favorite parts of it, or, other than Nathan Fillion's hair, things you didn't like? I'm also curious, Stephen, before you start yours, I want to hear how he talks. I know Fillion's going to have the most dickish voice for Guy Gardner. I just can see it now. But I'll let you start, Stephen. Like favorite parts of the trailer, or not favorite part, I guess. Anything kind of sticks out to you?
I think overall it was probably finally seeing that the sun was out. Seeing him save that girl was great.
Mm-hmm.
That there's stuff going on all over the world, and he's kind of just trying to save everything. So it makes me wonder what's the big overarching doomsday device that's being put into play here. Pun intended. I hope they don't bring him in for a long time.
I
But
don't
anyway,
think we're going to get Doomsday, though. I know Superman and Lois. I haven't watched the fourth season, but I've seen pictures. That's apparently one of the best live action versions of Doomsday they've ever
yeah,
done.
and
So like, let
it's
that go.
also actually some of the saddest endings to a Superman show ever. I was big into watching reactions, and I watched a lot of grown men just bawl over how they ended it because they had to.
Yeah,
But the way they did it was very goosebumpy in terms of what they did there.
okay.
But I think for me, it was mostly that they used the music was my favorite part.
That was a good part.
I can't understand enough about the teaser. I can't get over Guy Gardner's haircut. I can't get over why Clark Kent has a bigger mop top than the guy from the IT crowd, and then he just loses it all. Like he puts water on it and sleeks it back. But I was like, we'll see how that works.
Air friction.
I'd be interested if the full trailer, when it comes out, creates like a dichotomy of sorts, and I would hope it more focuses on the Clark Kent and maybe mild-mannered side of things, so we can kind of get like two different types of trailers.
There's tastes of that in the trailer that you can see, but I know what you're looking for. Yeah,
like give us more Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Perry White, like give us all that stuff. Give us more of like the Kents and stuff like that. With since you're not starting with an origin, you're going right in the middle.
Yeah, Ma Kent wasn't shown at all. Like,
well, whoever that bald guy was talking to, yeah.
You should look up the actor for that guy, because he's a great actor for a lot of the stuff he's been in. But it's an interesting choice, and I want to see how his Pa Kent's going to be.
But yeah, I don't have any other kind of expectations. I was just really glad they used that that theme because there's only one Batman theme for me and there's only one Superman theme for me.
Oh, which Batman theme? Because there's two for me.
For me, it's only the animated series.
Okay, thank you, because that's my first one. Thank you.
That's the Batman theme. Everything else is just it's Batman-esque. It's not really Batman. Superman, because even the old arcade game back in the day used the same theme as John Williams. I was like, that's the Superman theme. That's how you can tell. I think even the Nintendo game, as awesome as it was with the talking Statue of Liberty and having him take the subway, was also good because it still used the theme.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, it didn't. They had to take that out.
no, you could still hear it in certain parts. It wasn't the whole thing, but it was enough that you're like, they got away with something.
Chase, what about you? Your favorite part of the trailer, or least favorite part, I guess?
Favorite part probably was seeing some of the other people that they're seeing Hawk Girl. That was kind of cool, actually. Like,
Her mask looked really nice too.
Yeah, I just thought the character looked pretty good, so I was like, sweet, like getting some more characters in here. Like, that's awesome. I'm happy to see Nathan Fillion, even if he does have a terrible haircut, according to Swan.
He's supposed to.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Nathan Fillion in anything. Like, he's one of my favorite actors ever since Firefly. So a lot of respect him.
The first time he's not hidden in a James Gunn movie because he was the giant. He was the giant alien in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he was front and center. Like, his face was there. He was the prison guard that was there. So, like,
I don't know. They like to shove him in there, but this time he's a character. It's kind of like if Sam Raimi made a Batman movie that Bruce Campbell would finally be somebody.
Yeah, no, I thought seeing Hot Girl and Nathan Fillion and stuff. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna give this Lex a try. Not sure. Like, I always thought that Jesse Eisenberg would be was the perfect cast. So I'm curious to see.
He publicly talked recently that people hated that role, his version of it, so much it actually affected
his career.
His career. Like, he was getting denied for roles because of it. I was like, God damn.
Just give it to Michael Ironside. There you go.
He's a bit old for that one, I think.
Yeah. No, I thought that was. I always thought he was a good cast for it personally, but hey, I guess
I think
different strokes.
I think he overplayed the role a bit much. He seemed kind of weirdly manic. Like, Luthor has always been kind of calm, dangerously
cool. Overly played the role. Do you mean Jared Leto as Joker?
Amazingly, Leto overdid Joker. I don't know how the fuck you do that.
Yeah,
I still think that's a better Joker than the one we currently have.
It started with him mailing dead rats to the whole cast.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between playing a character and playing a caricature, which is what we've been seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Chris, I'm not opposed to like different. No. Oh, sorry. I was just because I'm not opposed to different like versions of the Joker. Like, obviously the animated series, which is my huge Batman fan that holds a space in my heart forever. You had like your mafia gangster style Joker, and then Heath Ledger did like the domestic terrorist Joker, and then like you had Jared Leto, which I don't know what that was like.
Yeah, I still appreciate the fact that even Teen Titans, the cartoon, made fun of the fact that Jared Leto as Joker is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that they shot the Waynes, that was such a fucked up scene for those movies. Anyways.
I do want to leave the movie talk off on the fact that with Jared Leto, because he just got cast as Skeletor in the Masters of the Universe movie.
I'm going to have to see how that goes. The guy can do good roles. I don't know how that's going to go, but
it's Skeletor time.
Oh God. All right, Chris, what about you? What your favorite parts or not from the trailer that you saw?
I like the fact that he had to get dragged away by the dog. That was fun. That's pretty much all I remember.
Just see that dog just running over and all the stuff coming out. Yeah,
home, Crypto, take me home.
Yeah, people were debating, like, what does he mean by home? Where's he going to take him? I was like, he's in the fucking Arctic, it looks like. He's going to go to the fortress. We know that. Just move on. So. All right. Well, I know we have probably put so much time into Superman, and I thank you because I really wanted to nerd out about this. I grew up and loved comic books, specifically DC, Batman, Superman, stuff like that is what I always loved. So I appreciate that. All right. So let's move on then. Last little bit we talked about earlier with the show. This, next week will be our last of this year. So we'll probably start thinking about, what our choices for our favorite games, movies, stuff like that, gaming memories for 2024, things that we've played. Probably won't cover too much news because I don't think much is going to happen. It'll just kind of be us talking about what we've played.
Switch 2 announced next week.
Right. We'll probably get the Switch 2 next week and just really screw up this whole thing. So that's pretty much what it'll be next week's show is just us having some fun.
We bring you the Zenspath Game Awards next week. Inaugural year.
We can try. We've done our game.
If Astrobot wins, I'm going to cry and leave.
We haven't got the check from Sony yet, though. So it's,
right.
It's up in the air.
I haven't got a check from anybody yet. I'm still waiting on that. Okay.
He doesn't even have PlayStation Plus. Why would he vote for Astrobot?
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
it is single player, but it's not my game of the year. It's up there.
He should have won Best Ongoing Support. They had 2 DLCs free.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and finish up and go into the big question real quick. So, all right. So this week, if you could use one official controller with whenever you click on that, Chase, it blocks part of the thing while I was reading it. And I'm like, I can't. What does it say? If you could use one official controller with any system, which would you want to use? Also, which would you never use? Chris, since this was your suggestion, I'm going to let you start us off.
All right. Well, my personal favorite controller so far is the PS2/PS4 controller. It's light. It has the perfect configuration of buttons, bumpers, and triggers for me, and it just feels like you can configure it to do nearly anything. The Switch Pro controller is a close second, and for fighting games at least, the original Saturn controller, the 6-button, was a third.
Oh, there you go.
I just feel like even for PC or for anything else, I prefer to have the classic Sony PS2 to PS4 controller. It's small, it just does everything perfectly. My least favorite would be the 3DO controller, which is the biggest piece of official crap that I have ever used. Not only because I had to play a fighting game with a 3-button controller, but also because the port for the second controller was on the first controller. That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
You want to daisy chain your controllers?
Oh.
Oh, man. All right, Chase, what about you?
Oh, this is pretty easy. Xbox controller. That's my favorite.
Which one? The Duke?
Well, no, just like what you got now. I mean, all the Xbox controllers.
Series X controller? Or...
All the Xbox controllers have always just been really good. Like, I love the Duke. Don't get me wrong. The Duke was awesome, but
we got big hands. That's why we can use that successfully. It was never a problem for me.
Yeah. And I like the Series X controller. I like the I even like the really nice Elite controller. I think that's great. PlayStation controller is a close second. But yeah, I think Microsoft's always had the controller just down and for my least favorite controller, the Joy-Con. The Switch Joy-Con.
A single Joy-Con?
Yeah, just there's a reason why I had to buy a Pro controller right away. When I got the Switch, I was like, there's no way that my big ass hands are gonna be comfortable using that fucking tiny ass piece of shit. So So
I guess you're happy that the new one seemed a little bit bigger.
Yeah, actually, that's what I am excited about that. Hopefully it's a lot bigger, but not by a huge amount because that'd make the system unmanageable. But fighting games, it's not really an official controllers. But fighting games, I've always liked arcade sticks and stuff. So I don't really have a official controller for that.
Okay. Steven, what about you? Because I know you and I both have
what's
a
the
collection.
word for you, Chase?
Oh, yeah.
The Joy-Con. I'm sorry. So you just don't like small controllers.
Yeah.
But Steven, I know you and I have a pretty wide variety of controllers in our collection, so this should be an interesting answer I'm waiting for.
So my number one is shocking because it's not a Nintendo controller. But my number one comes with a caveat.
Oh.
My number one controller is either the 360 or the Xbox One /Series controllers, but only with the keypad attached. If it doesn't have the keypad attached, it's garbage. Because with the keypad attached, it fits into my hand just right. It's the perfect weight. It just works. Everything works for me. A close second is the Switch Pro controller, because unlike all of PlayStation's controllers that use watch batteries that are on the fritz sometimes, I can play a Switch game for a week straight and it still has battery power. I play a PlayStation 5 game for 2 days and it's like, please recharge your controller. It's dead. So I was like, come on. I was like, even my Xbox batteries last longer than this. And then the worst controller, because I hate every design they pretty much did with it, is Dreamcast. Dreamcast made the horrible decision to put the cord in the bottom, and then they had to try to save it by putting a little clip on the back to fix their modeling error. to fix it. Even their 6 button did the same thing. Clip it on the back. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And then to make matters worse, they released an analog pad controller for the Saturn that I thought was the precursor to the Dreamcast controller because it looked like it. But why was the Saturn one made perfectly and a nice weight to it? And then we get this shell of a shit with Dreamcast.
Because the VMUs needed to be up top.
I feel if you drop a Dreamcast controller, it's like dropping an iPad. It just shatters into 1,000 pieces.
I have never had one break on me. All right, so my favorite controller is of no surprise because it's what I play most of my games, be it on PC or anything. I even carry one with me for my laptop. That is specifically the Series X controller. Because this iteration, I thought they did a lot of goodness with it. I can't do the keyboard because I have this, which is the audio adapter. So I use that all the time for, being able to mute the microphone or change the volume mix and stuff like that. So I can't attach that to the keyboard, so it's not happening.
You can't make it a good controller. Okay.
I do still have the keyboard for the 360. That thing was awesome. That I used the shit out of that. My second favorite, though, is one that is kind of a weird one that for people. It's the Wii U Pro controller specifically, because I don't normally like the analog sticks being at the same place. That's why I don't like the PlayStation controllers that much, because I'm uncomfortable having them both together at the bottom. But the Wii U had them at the top. So it still felt natural and comfortable. My thumbs didn't feel at a weird angle. And I just played the hell out of those. I even connect it to like my NES and SNES and stuff with a Bluetooth adapter, because the D-pad and everything works so well that I'll still use it for those too. So I do use it on multiple controllers. For fighting games, though, since Chris and Chase both mentioned it, my favorite for those would have to be my fight stick from the Dreamcast, because I thought that thing was so beautifully made. Second choice would be my X-Arcade tank sticks, which is kind of a cheat because they are made to be adapted to so many things, but it's lasted almost as long as my marriage has, which I've had for well over probably 20 years at this point, and it still works great. I did one update to it to add USB functionality because it was just serial originally. It still works, and I've had no problem with it. Now, for terrible controllers, I've had a couple over the years. The one I hate with an absolute passion is the NES Max. Who thought a sliding D-pad with no force at all would be a good idea? Like, have you ever handled one of those things? Like, Steven, it seems like you might actually know about that one at least, but...
Yeah, I have 2 of them.
Oh, God, I hate that thing.
It always seemed to me like that was their way of being like, maybe we can be a nice analog controller, and then Neo Geo Pocket and such made it work a lot better with the clickety.
Yeah. That one actually...
There's still worse ones. I've seen ones where the D-pad is all motion based on how you slide your finger over the pad. I have that controller, and that one's horrible too.
Well, that sounds like the Steam controller, which I never even bothered getting. I didn't like the idea of how that one was. But the Max, just that little pad slides around, and there's no feedback whatsoever. It does not feel like you're doing shit with it. So I think that would be probably the worst one out there. Second would go to some of the PlayStation controllers, because I'm just not a fan of how they're built and how they're designed. Having had to work on those before, they just aggravate the shit out of me. Maybe part of my problem with PlayStation, I guess. All right, so we will call that and move on towards our closing of the show. So you can find the podcast in audio form wherever you listen to your shows, and the video version over on YouTube at our channel, Zenspath COM. Both can easily be found over on Zenspath.com as well, where the page keeps itself updated with the latest episode for each format. If you can do us a favor, leave us a review if you can help, which can help us grow. Like and share the show with others, and leave us a comment on YouTube to tell us how you feel about the show. Maybe answer the big question yourself. Let us know what your favorite controller or least favorite controllers were. If you want to talk to us directly, do so over on Discord. It's the easiest way to find us and chat with the latest news and happenings of what we're doing. And you can find that at bit.ly/Zenspath Discord. Pretty much for the rest of us, social media has become such a volatile and crazy place. We've just quit listing off where we're at. But no matter what, you won't find Chris. He is the master of hiding. Good luck. All right. So with that, this has been episode 154 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network Podcast, and we're out. Peace.
Guy Gardner.
Bowl cut.